Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we're going to have a look at Condres OS, and we're going to try and figure out what it is. So this is an Arch-based system that's kind of the Arch-based Peppermint type thing. We have a lot of cloud application integration. We have ICE applications built in out of the box, which is great. And there's a few other tools. Their task is to develop a computer that is easy to use for a basic user. And it is supposedly also very lightweight on the systems. So if we head on over to their main page, what we kind of see is that they're borrowing Mac-like views, but when we boot it in, and I'll show you the loading screen, because it's exactly Windows 10 loading screen with a different wallpaper. It is quite, I'm baffling my head right now. But anyway, we'll have a look at it. So you have the advantages. This is a rolling Arch-based system with some friendly, user-friendly tools in it that I haven't even looked at yet. So we'll try and find those together today. And the great thing is that if you want to use GNOME, they have the desktop icons on there by default for those that like GNOME but like your desktop icons. It actually doesn't use the patchwork job extensions. It's doing something else. So there is some good development going on behind this distro. Hands down, there's some good development. The file manager on my GNOME build was actually Nemo, which was like, well, that's kind of neat. But that's probably how they got all the desktop integration to work the way they did. They have ICE applications. Mostly, I would say this is probably a Chrome OS type answer, because it does seem to be catered more towards the laptop use with some very advanced and customized battery usage tools. And they do say it's a very lightweight distribution using a variety of different desktops. They have this push bullet tool, which we won't be able to look at these things today, but it might be worth doing a separate video later. So push bullet will basically allow you to sync devices instead of using someone else's cloud infrastructure, just utilizing your local network instead. So nothing's ever going out to anybody's cloud servers. And that's a really cool tool. So like I said, there's some cool stuff in this. The sync thing also allows you to sync things between different tools. And it does tell you here we are based on Arch Linux, so it's a rolling cycle. Now they do release new snapshots every 3 months. So if you do want to install this, you're never more than 3 months out of Arch updates. So that's good. You do notice this red banner. They just released this new version, which is the 1909. And they are having an issue with KDE desktop icon issue with the control center. So if you are using Plasma, be aware that that is an issue. They are well aware of. They're publicizing that this is an issue and that they are working on it. I think this is all excellent stuff. So right now, just looking at their website, they know what they're doing. They got some good development. They kind of figured out where they're going. Now, as far as downloading it, you can go ahead over to the download page. And they just have a brief little minute and a half here video, which really doesn't have any information. But, it's cool to see they did some animation stuff. You can come over here and download. We have GNOME, KDE, Cinnamon. There's an education edition. I'm not sure exactly what all is in that one. We have the Mate. We have XFCE. We have the server. We have a minimal CLI. And this one here I think that this one here is actually designed for kind of these newer low-end tablet PC combos, because these things are 64-bit machines with a 64-bit EFI bootloader. And so if you have yourself one of those weird and rare machines, you're like, I can't get anything to work, other than Debian has a way to solve this problem by manually moving the 32-bit ESI bootloaders over into the 64-bit machine. This actually out of the box is going to give you that functionality. So if you have one of those tools and you're looking for a Linux build, this might be the Linux build to look into. So with all that being said, what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and jump on over and start booting this guy up. And I do want to show you the loading screen here because it is quite interesting that it is basically a Windows loading screen. All right, so there we are. I mean, look at this thing. That's the exact number of dots and the exact way they spin on Windows, isn't it? So, they're borrowing their marketing apparently from Mac. They're borrowing some of their OS build from Windows, I guess. Definitely an interesting thing to see. Now, when we load in here, of course, I'm using your GNOME. So Let's go ahead and sign on into this guy here. All right, so now when we land on the desktop, so this is the GNOME build. We have our panel down at the bottom. You do notice that our default is, oh, Chrome. Bleh! Why would you do that to a Linux machine? Anyway, we do have that. We have all of our desktop icons. And like I said, this is actually using Nemo. So it's not actually clunky like the other desktop integration system seems to be. It does seem a little bit better. Now we do have a lot of stuff here that's like, we still have the installation here. This is already installed on the system. We have access to just a lot of different stuff dumped on the desktop. So this is your downside of desktop icons because it gives us that full bloated Windows feel where I'm not sure Windows 10 does this as much anymore. I really don't know because I haven't used Windows 10 in a long time. But when you used to go out to the store, you'd go to your Best Buy or your Circuit City, remember that store, and you'd buy your computer, you'd bring it home, and then you'd spend the next 5 hours uninstalling the bloatware that they installed onto your computer. Well, we have all of this stuff up here that most people probably won't want on their desktop. But let's go ahead and have a look at all the different system tools that we have. All right, so we have Rhythmbox down here, LibreOffice. We have probably just the core LibreOffice, so the writer, the presentations, and the spreadsheets. We have a text editor, a terminal, basic settings. I'm guessing this is our GNOME settings, but we'll see. Okay, so that's our GNOME settings. This should be running GNOME 3.32, I think. Yep, 3.32.2. My installed package is never loaded. Let's see if this thing actually works. Interesting. Apparently it does not want to. We can click on that. We'll get our search bar. Let's see what we have. We have an archive manager. We have backup tools, CMake. We do have multiple web browsers. We have Firefox, Chromium, and Chrome on here. There might be more. Here is GIMP. We have firewall configurations. There's a kernel manager, a welcome screen. I found the welcome screen did not have a lot of useful information. It's not like some of the other distros that really gives us a lot of stuff. We have some basic documentation, but that's about all we have there. Yeah, apparently the installed packages application, whatever that is not going to want to run for me. Let's see. This is their control center, which is kind of their one of their core features that they talk a lot about. Hopefully it runs as well. And while that's hopefully booting, let's go in and see what else are we running here. Looks like Chromium is set as the default web browser, but we do have Firefox and Chrome installed. So yeah, I can't get the control center to work. Not sure why that is. That was kind of one of the feature tools. They do have Steam built in out of the box, but unfortunately they also seem to have Wine. We have Play on Linux installed by default here. And so you know my feelings about installing Wine onto a Linux build. That should never ever be installed onto a Linux build unless you are specifically planning to use it. So here's our ICE applications. They do not give us any ICE applications out of the box, which is nice because we don't have a lot of connections there. We can choose whether we're going to do Chrome, Chromium, or Firefox, and then we can create the SSB with an isolated browser. Of course, Firefox is always isolated. So of course, this is, you just name the application, enter the web address, and then this is going to load up. So if I wanted to do something like, let's do best YouTube channel ever and do that. Just use site favicon, apply. Really? That's giving me an error, huh? Let's go ahead and continue. Maybe something is fundamentally broken with the system, which would make sense because I'm actually not able to load some cool core functions like, you know. I wonder if my network is working. Let's boot up Google Chrome here and see if the network is working. Interesting. Maybe I typed something wrong. I don't know. So internet is working. The ICE application, maybe I typed something in incorrectly there. So out of the box so far, my user experience is not particularly good. My installed package application will not load. My Condres Control Center will not load. And apparently my let me check that ICE application. Let me just make sure I didn't have a typo. I probably had a typo. That's probably what I did. Can I edit this guy? Let's remove it. I might have typed that wrong. Maybe I didn't have the .com. Use site favicon and apply. Let's see if this works this time. Okay, so now that seems to work. I probably typed something wrong. I'll go back through and probably find it on the the video. I'll look at that and go, oh man. So this is what your ICE application gives you. It's just basically a browser here where you can go in and just kind of click on that. If you do want the menu, you can go in and push the Alt and you can get your menu open if you want that. So that's kind of what your ICE applications are going to allow us to do. All right, let's go ahead and dive into another part of this that I found a little controversial. So the little bit of the controversial part is the installation itself. So we use the Calamaris installer, but there's an extra step in here that I want you to be able to see. So we don't have to install the whole thing for this. I just want you to see what goes on during the installation, because to me it made me scratch my head a little bit and go, not really sure. So here we are going to go in and we're going to start the live system, then we're going to run the installer. All right. Now, they do have on their welcome screen over here, we do actually have our passwords and stuff, so that's really good. But we want to look here at the installation of this, because there's an extra step in here that it kind of makes you want to do that I think is like, that's a little goofy. So we click over here, and here I have to accept all these license agreements. There's no option to say, don't install this. NVIDIA driver. With my AMD computer, I do not need to, nor do I want to agree to the terms and conditions of NVIDIA drivers. If I wanted to agree to terms and conditions of NVIDIA drivers, I would buy an NVIDIA card. As it is, I don't. Catalyst driver, graphics driver, I don't think I need that. The whatever's in the kernel is good for me. Adobe Flash browser plugin. Where's the option to say, don't install this nonsense? I don't really want it. Licensed GPL v3 browser plugin, OIN license agreement browser plugin, and data protection regulation plugin. I'm not even sure exactly what these plugins are. I'm guessing these might be plugins that are installed maybe on Chrome. I don't know. But I don't have any option to install this unless I agree to these things. Half of those, which I don't want, actually none of them I want. And many of these I'd like to just say no. But you'll notice we cannot go through and skip this. So you are going to have to agree to these terms and conditions before that, before you can install it. So we're going to go ahead and cancel that process. Yes, cancel the progress. I pushed no the first time. My apologies. Let's see if I can actually load the control center on the live image. So overall, out of the box, at least on the virtual machine, I'm not having a particularly good experience. Now, some people say, well, you got to try it on bare metal before you make an evaluation. Not in the Linux world. In the Linux world, I'm first going to try it on a virtual machine. If we can't get it functioning well on the virtual machine, there's hundreds of other distributions I can try that don't give me problems on virtual machines. So yeah, even here, I can't get the control center to work, which is kind of their standout function. I'm guessing my installed packages application is also not going to work. We have things like Chrome installed out of the box, and we have things like Winetrick out of the box. So overall, my verdict for this machine, let's just burn it with fire. Now, actually, I'm on my live user, so I can't really burn it with fire. But overall, my take, I looked at this today and said, wow, this looks really good. Their website looks good. They clearly have some developers behind it who know what they're doing. But the challenges that I'm having here on this desktop, testing this out, maybe it's a GNOME issue, I don't know. But we have applications installed that I probably don't want installed. We have EULAs that I can't say, please don't install this application or skip this application. I don't agree. If you do not agree to all these terms and conditions, we cannot install it. So with things like Peppermint, which has a lot better, maybe a lot better development team behind it and works with the ICE applications to get your more internet-y based things, with things like, Manjaro and Endeavor's coming along nicely, and people have said Arco Linux is great. I'm using Arch Labs for all those for Arch. I'm not really sure I see a need for this at this point in time. That's just my thoughts and my opinion. Maybe there's some fundamental reason why these tools aren't working the way they should. Maybe I'm missing something where it's forcing me to use these EULAs, but I don't really want to agree to them, nor do I need an NVIDIA agreement on my computer anyway, because this runs AMD. Those are those little things that I think need to be patched up, and I don't know, those are my thoughts about this. Let me know your thoughts about this distro in the comments down below.